Sorry.
That's okay.
It's okay. Hello, can I have some of this?
What's that?
Oh, you're one of them. I don't know. Can you put it on bread or something? Okay, small one.
Anything for you?
No, thanks. Do you have salt and pepper?
Yeah.
I'll have salt and pepper. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's okay. Hello, can I have some of this?
What size?
Oh, you're one of them. I don't know. Can you put it on bread or something? Okay, small one.
Anything for you?
No, thanks. Do you have salt and pepper?
Yeah.
I'll have salt and pepper. She's against the cheese. It makes her be cheeky. She blows up if she goes any cheese on it. No cheese, no cheese, no cheese. Willpower. Whoa, cough, die. I'm recording the food. Whoa. You've got to be over 18 to work here.
Do you?
Yeah. Are these girls over 18 or?
They look like they might be over 18.
Yeah. Is that my burger thing, is it?
What salad can I do with you on this one?
I have all the salad.
All of it?
All of it. Yeah, just a little bit of everything.
Do you like salad?
That's probably too much. That's enough. That's plenty.
Sorry?
That's enough.
Can you
Yeah. That's plenty. That's enough. No. Yeah. I'll have some of that. It's just that you're going to put about 2 kilos of everything.
Just a little bit of everything. Yeah.
She speaks good English. She's from the Illawarra, you know that? Yeah. And she's the queen of Illawarra.
Yeah.
She gets dressed up and wow.
That's exciting.
Yeah, she puts this costume on. I've never seen her before. Yeah. You just gotta say, I love you 4 times, and then she looks you in the eye and she goes, slap. Actually, it really does. Got a bad cough. I can't get rid of it. She's against the cheese. It makes her be cheeky. She blows up if she goes any cheese on it. No cheese, no cheese, no cheese. Willpower. Whoa, cough, die. I'm recording the food. Whoa. You gotta be over 18 to work here.
Yeah?
Yeah. Are these girls over 18 or?
They look like they might be over 18.
Yeah. You don't mind the burger thing, is it? I have all the salad. All of it. Yeah, just a little bit of everything. That's probably too much. That's enough. That's plenty. That's enough. Yeah. That's plenty. That's enough. No. Yeah. I'll have some of that. It's just that you're going to put about 2 kilos of everything.
Just a little bit of everything. Yeah.
She speaks good English. She's from the Illawarra, you know that? Yeah. And she's the queen of Illawarra.
Yeah.
She gets dressed up and wow.
That's exciting.
Yeah, she puts this costume on. I've never seen her before. Yeah. You just gotta say, I love you 4 times. And then she looks at you in the eye and she goes, slap. Actually, it really does. Got a bad cough. I can't get rid of it. Good. She's against the cheese. It makes her be cheeky. She blows up if she goes any cheese on it. No cheese, no cheese, no cheese. Willpower. Whoa, cough, die. I'm recording the food. Whoa. You gotta be over 18 to work here.
Yeah?
Yeah. Are these girls over 18 or?
They look like they might be over 18.
Yeah. You don't mind the burger thing, is it? I have all the salad. All of it. Yeah, just a little bit of everything. That's probably too much. That's enough. That's plenty. That's enough. Yeah. That's plenty. That's enough. No, yeah, I'll have some of that. It's just that you're going to put about 2 kilos of everything.
Just a little bit of everything. Yeah.
She speaks good English. She's from the Illawarra, you know that? Yeah. And she's the queen of Illawarra. She gets dressed up and wow. Yeah, she puts this costume on. I've never seen her before. Yeah. You just gotta say, I love you 4 times, and then she looks at you in the eye and she goes, slap. Actually, really does. Got a bad cough. I can't get rid of it. She's against the cheese. It makes her be cheeky. She blows up if she goes any cheese on it. No cheese. Willpower. Whoa, cough, die. I'm recording the food. Whoa. You gotta be over 18 to work here.
Yeah?
Yeah. Are these girls over 18 or?
They look like they might be over 18.
Yeah. You don't mind the burger thing, is it? I have all the salad. All of it. Yeah, just a little bit of everything. That's probably too much. That's enough. That's plenty. That's enough. Yeah. That's plenty. That's enough. No, yeah, I'll have some of that. It's just that you're going to put about 2 kilos of everything.
Just a little bit of everything. Yeah.
She speaks good English. She's from the Illawarra, you know that? Yeah. And she's the queen of Illawarra. She gets dressed up and wow. Yeah, she puts this costume on. I've never seen her before. Yeah. You just gotta say, I love you 4 times, and then she looks at you in the eye and she goes, slap. Actually, really does. Got a bad cough. I can't get rid of it. She's against the cheese. It makes her be cheeky. She blows up if she goes any cheese on it. No cheese. Willpower. Whoa, cough, die. I'm recording the food. Whoa. You've got to be over 18 to work here.
Yeah?
Yeah. Are these girls over 18 or?
They look like they might be over 18.
Yeah. You don't mind the burger thing, is it? I have all the salad. All of it. Yeah, just a little bit of everything. That's probably too much. That's enough. That's plenty. That's enough. Yep. That's plenty. That's enough. No, yeah. I'll have some of that. It's just that you're going to put about 2 kilos of everything.
Just a little bit of everything. Yeah.
She speaks good English. She's from the Illawarra, you know that? Yeah. And she's the queen of Illawarra. She gets dressed up and wow. Yeah, she puts this costume on. I've never seen her before. Yeah. You just gotta say, I love you 4 times, and then she looks at you in the eye and she goes, slap. Actually, really does. Got a bad cough. I can't get rid of it.
Much like Theranos, Ozzy seemed to thrive in a culture of PR and hype, until it didn't. And it's not a stretch to wonder how Elizabeth Holmes fits into the larger story. Whether she's an adult.
I have got it out. I have got it out. Listen and fucking it. Okay. Someone was dropping out. They kept marching on. Cyber international computer attacking America. They're not on. They got nice looking scientists, nice looking doctors. Excuse me, please. Oh, era. Family, food, sport, army, family.
Dr. Rosendorf goes, yes, September does come after August. And everyone kind of laughs. And I'm like, wow, okay.
Emma was attending the trial as an assignment for her government class at nearby Los Gatos High School.
We had this thing called political participation, where we were supposed to observe basically something having to do with the government. And then also some of the English teachers have actually assigned your podcast, The Dropout, as like assigned listening. And so I just thought that would be a really interesting thing to do for my project.
But that's not Emma's only connection to this story.
In the atmosphere of my high school, we've had, of course, Mr. Alex Schultz as a former biology teacher. He retired last year. He taught both biology and biology honors. And he's Tyler Schultz's father. And of course, George Schultz's son.
That's right. The son of Theranos board member George Schultz and the father of Theranos whistleblower Tyler Schultz was a biology teacher at Emma's school. It's the kind of connection you see a lot of in Silicon Valley. With such a monumental story unfolding so close to home, Emma says she can't help but imagine the longer-term implications for her community. You're a young person living in Silicon Valley right now. What will the takeaway be for people like you?
Well, I think definitely if she gets off, people are going to be like, wow, a company can do something that bad, because it's pretty much accepted, at least where I live, that like she's guilty. Like, that's what people think. And I'm sure that'll lead some people to think that maybe they can start their own fraudulent company someday. So that would be bad. But I think if she's convicted, then people will think like, okay, there is, there's justice if you have like a fraud, and that's going to be the punishment.
This is Brad Milkey, host of ABC's daily news podcast, Start Here. More Dropout in a minute, but first, a quick reminder, if you're looking for a daily recap of the day's news, including updates on the Elizabeth Holmes trial, join me over on Start Here, the daily podcast from ABC News. Again, that's Start Here, available wherever you listen.
As the story of Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes has been unfolding in Emma's backyard, it's been hard to look away this week from the other big tech and startup stories unfolding in our collective backyard. From the Facebook whistleblower coming forward.
I'm here today because I believe Facebook's products harm children, stoke division, and weaken our democracy.
To allegations that startup Aussie Media faked its numbers while soliciting investors, as New York Times media columnist Ben Smith reported.
According to the New York Times, the company's chief operating officer impersonated a YouTube executive on a call with Goldman Sachs while attempting to raise money from the investment bank.
Carlos Watson, Aussie's co-founder, appearing in an interview on CNBC, drew comparisons to Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos.
Were there any other occasions where investors were given misleading information, or was that a one-off event?
Becky, I hope and I believe that was a one-off event. I think it's completely inappropriate and not thoughtful, these kind of comparisons to Theranos. You and I both.
Aussie denies some of the allegations, but some of them, like the COO impersonating a YouTube employee, are undisputed. Much like Theranos, Aussie seemed to thrive in a culture of PR and hype, until it didn't. And it's not a stretch to wonder how Elizabeth Holmes fits into the larger story, whether she's an anomaly or an indicator of something bigger.
I think that the people who would like to position Theranos as a unique exception will find evidence to make that case.
Roger McNamee spent 34 years investing in companies.
The notion that you could raise hundreds of millions of dollars for a medical testing company run by a person under the age of 30 was something that would have been vanishingly unlikely prior to 2000, but didn't seem out of place in the environment of the first decade of this century.
McNamee was an early investor in Facebook, an advisor to Mark Zuckerberg, a co-founder of private equity firm Elevation Partners, and he was approached early on to invest in Theranos. Today, McNamee calls himself an activist. He stepped away from the firm he co-founded, and he's the author of Zucked, Waking Up to the Facebook Catastrophe.
I realized that the most successful investments coming out of the Valley were all going to have these predatory business models with ridiculous amounts of capital against income statements that might never generate a profit. And that caused me to tell my partners, I've passed my sell-by date. This is not a culture I'm comfortable in. I mean, you guys hang around, God bless. I mean, good luck, enjoy it. I hope it works out well. And obviously it worked out fantastically, but it was not something I was comfortable with.
McNamee says to really understand the culture of Silicon Valley today and how Theranos fits in, you need to look at its history.
I think of Silicon Valley as having had three sociological eras. So that first era, which really ran from 1956 until the late 70s, was dominated by the government as the primary customer. So it was military and space for the most part. We're going to the moon.
And counting, and Apollo 13 is go.
In the 70s, we saw the beginnings of the hippie value system coming into Silicon Valley. It began with Atari.
A world beyond your wildest dreams. Discover Atari.
Was then followed by Apple.
January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh.
And what was really interesting was that the two were surprisingly compatible. As straight-laced as the space program folks were, their idealism and their desire to make the world better with technology meshed perfectly with the counterculture folks that built Atari and then Apple.
Heading into the late 90s, it was also expensive to start a tech company, and there were lots of barriers to entry.
The companies had to spend between $100 and $150 million on infrastructure just to launch a website. And because of that, the average age of the entrepreneurs was pretty old because you were not going to trust $150 million to a kid.
But after the internet bubble burst in the early 2000s, McNamee says everything changed.
The limitations that engineers had been under for the prior 50 years, which were limitations of processing power, memory, storage, and bandwidth, began to evaporate. So instead of requiring $150 million to launch a product, all you needed was an American Express card or a Visa card. Anybody could do it. And it turned out everybody did.
Everybody did, including Elizabeth Holmes and another dropout from across the country named Mark Zuckerberg. Just as Mark was founding Facebook in 2004, Elizabeth was getting Theranos off the ground. Not only were the barriers coming down, but the culture was also changing, according to McNamee. And suddenly, these young innovators were exactly what investors wanted.
The people making the investments, they were attracted to a certain kind of person who really focused on size, speed, and efficiency. The notion was move as fast as you possibly can, get as big as you possibly can, and don't let any obstacle get in your way. That became the prevailing culture of entrepreneurship in Silicon Valley.
You never know what you're going to get on this show. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Yes, Whoopi! This mic on? Can you hear me out there?
Behind the scenes is always a better show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what people don't see during the commercial break.
Right. They don't.
What happened?
I had no idea really what I was getting myself into.
That day that we walked out, I treasure that day.
I couldn't sit there.
You're doing good, Joy. You're doing good. Oh, yeah, baby.
It was crazy.
The View, Behind the Table, wherever you get your podcasts.
I want to tell you about another podcast you might like, one where you might be able to help write the ending. Hear me out. The year is 1998. A New York computer salesman named John Rufo has just been sentenced for his role in one of the largest fraud scams in American history. He's ordered to show up for his prison sentence, but instead he just vanishes. Now, all these years later, the U.S. Marshals and our team are following the clues, tracking down leads from across the country and around the world, all along the way, asking the question, have you seen this man? Help crack the case. The podcast is Have You Seen This Man? And it's available now, wherever you listen.
This culture of bold and disruptive entrepreneurship was very much present, according to McNamee, when he says a friend on Theranos' board approached him to invest in the blood testing startup.
I explained to my friend I wasn't likely to do it because I really didn't do healthcare. He said, no, this is so great, you got to look at it. And I go, okay, great. Give me the pitch. So he walks me through the slide deck. And the idea was that we were going to take a drop of blood and it was going to revolutionize medical testing because you were going to be able to identify all these incredibly terrifying diseases. And because it was just a drop of blood, you were going to get people tested way more often, and therefore it was going to radically transform public health. Now, I'm not an investor in medical devices, but I had worked a long part of my career in a firm that was huge in it. And so I had at least been exposed to these companies. And the thing I know is that when you get a blood test, they take vials of blood. And these guys were going to go from that down to a pinprick without any intervening steps. They were just going to do this all in one shot. And I went, I can't speak for medical devices, but I know that in my world of technology, that's not possible. That you have to make incremental approaches and you get there in a series of steps. What's your interim strategy? They go, no. We're going to go straight there. We've broken the code. And I said to my friend, wow, that's something that in my world, I would look at with great suspicion. And he goes, no, we're on top of this. And I go, well, God bless, but I'm not going to do it.
But others did. And McNamee says Theranos played right into the groupthink of the moment.
I mean, it would have been great if it had worked, but people started to believe this notion that if you raised enough money and you moved fast enough, success would be a self-fulfilling prophecy, that you would be able to overwhelm any challenge. This is the exact principle that went into Uber, the exact principle that went into WeWork.
There's an argument from Elizabeth's legal team that she couldn't have deceived investors because these were highly sophisticated people. They should have known they were taking a risk. What do you say to that?
I would say she's correct that these people pretend to be highly sophisticated. I think those people allowed themselves to be duped, and that in no way absolves her of responsibility for the things she'd said or things she did. Look, it pays you money and you take your chance. That's the investment business. People lose money all the time, but you're not allowed to lie to people. You're not allowed to pretend you're doing one thing when you're actually doing something quite different. There are very clear laws on that, and Theranos appears to have gone way over that line.
Theranos received some of the biggest checks from the likes of Rupert Murdoch and the Walton family, heir to the Walmart fortune. Not sophisticated venture capital biotech investors. But McNamee believes another fundamental shift worked to Elizabeth's advantage. Interest rates, that is the cost of borrowing, crash after the dot-com bubble burst, and again after the financial crisis. This meant investors had access to free-flowing, cheap capital, and it ended up finding a home in what were promising to be high-growth companies like Theranos.
That philosophy, I can tell you, did not exist until the late 90s. Before that, people were really careful about where they put their money, especially in the venture capital field. I mean, they made mistakes, but beginning in the late 90s, you know, when you started to put the phrase .com on the tail end of any descriptive word for an industry, you know, so pets.com and all that, you know, that was the beginning of Fantasyland.
In fact, the amount of money flowing into companies from the venture capital community went from roughly $30 billion in 1990, according to the National Venture Capital Association, to a staggering $220 billion by 2000. Today, those numbers continue to climb to more than $470 billion. And with the trial of Elizabeth Holmes underway, a handful of noted venture investors have recently said Theranos is not indicative of the overall culture of Silicon Valley. I asked McNamee what he thought about this position. He says Elizabeth is unique for some reasons, but he also sees similarities between Theranos' business model, raise a lot of money to do the impossible, that isn't that far off from the rest of Silicon Valley. McNamee doesn't see any of this ending well.
Silicon Valley is an incredibly male-dominated culture, and if I were they, I'd say the same thing, right? You're trying to make Theranos appear to be an exception. And in some ways it is an exception. But in many ways, it's just the prototype for a lot of businesses that followed it. Now, it had the misfortune of not getting to a large enough scale before the charade was exposed. The thing about Elizabeth Holmes that I look at that gives me great hope for humanity, you wouldn't have had to go back more than 5 years when it would have been impossible for a woman to raise that kind of money, even for a really great idea. But yeah, men had been raising money for bad ideas for a really long time. And I thought, well, there is definitely a silver lining here, because I'm really happy to see that women are getting a chance to do this. And I feel that same way about it. If it turns out it was a scam, I'm going to feel the same way about it, which is that actually represents a form of social progress.
What role do you see the media playing in all?
ABC News.
Hello, Amber Jacobs.
I'm just saying that debating, more protest, scared the government, shot the police, go, the police power.
With the latest headlines, the home of
fuck the police. Be nice, I love you, get married, wife, man. Family, please.
Affairs Minister. Hello, Amber Jacobs with the...
Fuck you, cantapá. Excuse me, please. Perdón. Manes, love you. Family food.
The latest headlines. The Home Affairs Minister, Karen Andrews, says she hopes a new child abuse prevention strategy
will reduce what she's described as the terrible rate of child exploitation in Australia. The $300 million plan has been launched today and involves a public awareness campaign, more training for police officers, and early intervention programs for potential offenders. The federal Greens say Israel's decision to...
Wait a minute, how about the lower majority that don't want to get vaccinated and they own drugs and you're selling them cigarettes and marijuana, synthetics? What are you doing, motherfuckers? If love you, corrupt, man. They didn't say the lower, they didn't want to do it. One on drugs, the ones on different thinking, other dimensions, they didn't say that. They fucking lie, man. You hear it. Lower majority because family army food because
declare 6 for police officers and early intervention programs for potential offenders. The federal Greens say Israel's decision to declare 6 Palestinian human rights groups as terrorist organisations is an outrageous move. Israel's Defence Ministry has accused the groups of covertly financing a group with an armed wing that has carried out deadly attacks against Israelis. Human Rights Watch says Israel...
ABC News.
Andrew Kalupis with the latest. The Prime Minister says Australia will share another 10 million vaccine doses with Southeast Asian nations within the next 8 months. It'll be drawn from the 60 million doses which the government is committed to sharing with countries in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. Scott Morrison has told Southeast Asian leaders that Australia has shared 4 million doses with the region so far. Forensic police have returned to the Blowholes campsite in remote West Australia, from which it's believed 4-year-old Cleo Smith was snatched 12 days ago. The disappearance of the little girl from the family tent in the early hours of the morning has sparked a massive search and prompted the offer of $1 million reward for information that leads to her whereabouts. Police have also spent more time at the family home in Carnarvon, but reiterated there's no suggestion they're involved in her disappearance. New South Wales police have expanded their search for an alleged drug kingpin amid fears he could flee the country. Days after being granted bail, Mustafa Balouch cut off his electronic monitoring bracelet and disappeared, sparking calls for tougher bail laws. The 33-year-old is charged over an alleged attempt to import hundreds of millions of dollars of cocaine from overseas. Police say there are multiple theories at play, including that he potentially boarded a private jet.
ABC News.
Andrew Kalupis with the latest. The National Party has given in-principle support to back a target of net zero emissions for Australia by 2050. 21 members and senators met Sunday afternoon to discuss the issue, with some worried it could result in job losses in regional areas. But Nationals leader Barnaby Joyce says most concerns have been allayed and the majority are now on board with the plan. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has welcomed the Nationals' support to back the target. Mr Morrison agreed to altering the original climate policy to get the Nationals on board. The Victorian government has unveiled a raft of eased restrictions as the state hits the 80% and then 90% fully vaccinated milestones. Premier Daniel Andrews says life will be back to near normal once Victoria reaches 90% of over 12-year-olds being double-dosed, which is projected to be on or about the 24th of November. He says to help get there, all non-essential retail will need to be fully vaccinated to work and shop, and there'll be what he calls a one-off approval gateway for all events. West Australian police are searching for a vehicle seen leaving a campsite in the state's north from where 4-year-old Cleo Smith disappeared more than a week ago. After an extensive search for the girl in and around the Blowholes campsite, about 70 kilometres north of Carnarvon, police now believe she was abducted. Police say witnesses have come forward saying they saw a passenger vehicle leaving the campsite between 3 and 3:30 last Saturday morning. Colombia's president has welcomed the capture of the head of the country's biggest criminal gang. Authorities have confirmed Dario Antonio Usega, a notorious drug trafficker and leader of the Gulf clan, has been apprehended. He was caught in a major operation carried out by the country's armed forces during which a policeman was killed. Usega's cartel smuggled hundreds of millions of dollars worth of cocaine into the US and as far as Russia.
ABC News.
Alexia Atwood with the latest news headlines.
what's it called it? They ain't giving the information to anti-government or anti-corruption. We love you, YouTube. We'll join YouTube. Subscribe. Opinion, good manners. I love you. Family food. Don't eat, don't cheat, you die. Champion. I'm fun. Family. Excuse me, please.
The United Nations has slammed...
excuse me, please. Excuse me, please. Whoop, I'm moving my hands. I'm shaking. Ooh, I'm felicissimo, shaking my hands. Love you, sexy. Family food debate.
Developed countries for their lack of leadership.
ABC News.
Alexia Atwood with the latest news headlines. The United Nations has slammed developed countries for their lack of leadership in combating climate change. A new report states current efforts to cut emissions fall well short of what's needed. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, their lack of leadership.
ABC News.
Alexia Atwood with the latest news headlines. The United Nations has slammed developed countries for their lack of leadership in combating climate change. A new report states current efforts to cut emissions fall well short of what's needed. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres described it as a wake-up call for governments around the world.
ABC News.
Alexia Atwood with the latest news headlines. The United Nations has slammed developed countries for their lack of leadership in combating climate change. A new report states current efforts to cut emissions fall well short of what's needed. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres described leadership in combating climate change. A new report states... Alexia Atwood with the latest news headlines. The United Nations has slammed developed countries for their lack of leadership in combating climate change. Alexia Atwood with the latest news headlines. The United Nations has slammed developed countries for their lack of leadership in combating climate change. Alexia Atwood with the latest news headlines. The United Nations has slammed developed countries for their lack of leadership in combating climate change. A new report states current efforts to cut Atwood with the latest news headlines. The United Nations has slammed developed countries for their lack of leadership in combating climate change. A new report states... Alexia Atwood with the latest news headlines. The United Nations has slammed developed countries for their lack of leadership in combating climate change. A new report states current efforts to cut emissions fall well short of what's needed. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres described it as a wake-up call for governments around the world. The Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine could be approved for 5 to 11-year-old children in Australia by the end of November. The medical regulator has now received most of the safety and efficacy data from Pfizer about its vaccine, but still needs some final information before a decision can be made. In other news, a US prosecutor investigating last week's accidental fatal shooting on a film set says the weapon Alec Baldwin used was a real gun, not a prop. In an interview with the New York Times, the Santa Fe County District Attorney described the weapon, which the actor had been assured would fire only blanks, as an antique-era appropriate gun. And the ACT has hit a critical vaccination milestone, with 90% of the eligible population now fully protected against COVID-19. It comes ahead of a further easing of restrictions in the territory on Friday. ABC News.
ABC News.
Hello, Amber Jacobs with the latest headlines. The federal government predicts 80% of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Australians. Hello, Amber Jacobs with the latest headlines. The federal government predicts... The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, says the economic modelling underpinning the government's planned vaccine 6 months on from their second dose. The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, says the economic modelling underpinning the government's plan to achieve net zero emissions by 2050 will be released in the coming weeks. Morrison says the economic modelling underpinning the government of any vaccine 6 months on from their second... Hello, Amber Jacobs with the 6 months on from their second dose. The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, says the economic modelling underpinning the government's plan to achieve net zero emissions by 2050 will be released in the coming... Scott Morrison. Hello, Amber Jacobs with the latest headlines. The federal government with the latest headlines. Hello, Amber Jacobs with the latest headlines. The federal government predicts 80% of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Australians will have received a first dose of a vaccine by the first week of December. Vaccination rates among Indigenous Australians continue to lag behind the broader population. The rollout of COVID booster shots to the general public is expected to begin on November the 8th. The medical regulator has approved the Pfizer vaccine for use as a booster in people aged over 18. It'll be offered to anyone who's received 2 doses of any vaccine.
Oh, fuck, hey, well, how do we bat it? Do we have to have these chemicals, metals, try to vaccine into our bodies? Who is the ruler of our bodies? How do we scare our bodies? Who is lawsuits of our bodies? Am I allowed to say opinions? How do we have shots after shots? I love you. How is coronavirus going into your body? Please fix it with vaccine, please. YouTube, very nice. I love you. Fix coronavirus vaccine, please. Menace. Excuse me, police.
6 months on from the election. The rollout of COVID booster shots to the general public is expected to begin on November the 8th. The medical regulator, the broader population, first dose of a vaccine by the first week of December. Vaccination rates among Indigenous Australians continue to lag behind the broader population. The rollout of COVID booster shots to the general public is expected to begin on November the 8th. The medical regulator has approved the Pfizer vaccine for use as a booster. Shots to the general public is expected to begin on November. A first dose of a vaccine by the first week of December. Vaccination rates among Indigenous Australians continue to lag behind the broader population. The rollout of COVID booster shots to the general public is expected to begin on November the 8th. The medical regulator has approved the Pfizer vaccine for use as a booster in people aged over 18. It'll be offered to anyone who's received 2 doses of any vaccine 6 months on from their second dose. The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, says the economic modelling underpinning the government's plan to achieve net zero emissions by 2050 will be released in the coming weeks. The government yesterday released its long-awaited plan to get Australia's economy carbon neutral by the middle of the century. Also making headlines, 75 businesses have told the tax office they'll voluntarily pay back some or all of the JobKeeper payments they received. ABC News.
ABC News.
Alexia Atwood with the latest news. Border checkpoints saw 21,000 vehicles on Tuesday, but the Queensland border expecting to be let in, mistakenly believing that the state had already eased its restrictions. Border checkpoints saw 21,000 vehicles on Tuesday, mainly at the Coolangatta Tweed crossing. Believing that the state had already eased its restrictions. Border checkpoints saw 21,000 vehicles on Tuesday, mainly at the Coolangatta Tweed crossing. Mistakenly believing that the state had already eased its restrictions. Border checkpoints saw 21,000 vehicles on Tuesday, mainly at the Coolangatta Tweed crossing. A group of Australian health workers and members of the Australian Defence Force have flown to Papua New Guinea to help the country deal with its COVID-19 outbreak. Major hospitals throughout the 11th hour commitment to net zero has been criticised for its lack of detail and for relying on unproven technologies. Catastrophic climate change. But the government's 11th hour commitment to net zero has been criticised for its lack of detail and for relying on unproven technologies. Police say too many people are turning up at the Queensland border expecting to be let in, mistakenly believing that the state had already eased its restrictions. Border checkpoints saw 21,000 vehicles on Tuesday. Atwood with the latest. Alexia Atwood with the latest news headlines. Australia's plan to reach net zero emissions is set to be tested on the world stage as the Prime Minister prepares to leave the country today for COP26 in Glasgow. Scott Morrison will head to Rome for a G20 meeting before making his way to Scotland for talks billed as the last chance for meaningful action to avoid catastrophic climate change. But the government's 11th hour commitment to net zero has been criticised for its lack of detail and for relying on unproven technologies. Police say too many people are turning up at the Queensland border expecting to be let in, mistakenly believing that the state had already eased its restrictions. Border checkpoints saw 21,000 vehicles on Tuesday, mainly at the Coolangatta Tweed crossing. A group of Australian health workers and members of the Australian Defence Force have flown to Papua New Guinea to help the country deal with its COVID-19 outbreak. Major hospitals throughout PNG are struggling to cope with the surge in COVID-19 cases. And despite lockdowns outside Sydney and Melbourne over recent months, there's still been an uptick in the number of people who've moved from capital cities to regional areas to live. That's according to the Regional Australia Institute, a not-for-profit think tank that used data from the Commonwealth Bank to examine where residents had relocated to during the September quarter. ABC News.
ABC News.
Rule it out. ABC News. Sightings of unexplained. And the Air Force says Australia won't follow the Pentagon in formally investigating UFOs. It insists pilots here have not reported any sightings of unexplained objects. In June, the Pentagon's declassified formally that they believe killed Helena Hutchins, but have refused to comment on possible charges. And the Air Force says Australia won't follow the Pentagon in formally investigating UFOs. It insists pilots here have not reported any sightings of unexplained objects. In June, the Pentagon's declassified report found no clear indication that there is any non-terrestrial explanation for objects seen flying erratically in the sky, but did not rule it. The report found no clear indication that there is any non-terrestrial explanation for unexplained objects. It says Australia won't follow the Pentagon live projectile that they believe killed Helena Hutchins, but have refused to comment on possible charges. And the Air Force says Australia won't follow the Pentagon in formally investigating UFOs. It insists pilots here have not reported any sightings of unexplained objects. In June, the Pentagon's declassified report found no clear indication that there is any non-terrestrial explanation for unexplained objects. In June, the Pentagon's declassified report found no clear UFOs. It insists pilots here have not reported any sightings of unexplained objects. In June, the Pentagon's declassified report found no clear indication that there is any non-terrestrial explanation for objects seen flying erratically in the sky, but did not rule it out. ABC News.
I'm cutting it out. This is God. This is God. God. Hope you do something. You join the YouTube's on the YouTube. God. God. It's world record. Okay. Oh, excuse me. I'm late. Oh, I'm naughty. Not doing my chores. Oops, I'm not going to get a girlfriend. Excuse me, please.
reporting or talking about the passing of Bert Newton in the program this morning, and ABC News has put this piece up on, I guess this is a reflection or a memory of Bert Newton. They put it up on the internet. It says thousands of fans surrounded the church hoping to catch a glimpse of the bride and groom. It was Bert Mania as television personalities Bert Newton was having.
Hello, it looks like it's recording, and I have to do, no, 4. I thought I had more. 4. Wait up. 4. So I gotta go this one. Okay. How do we just get to the, let me see. Go here. Home, Samsung, Apple, phone, my phone, news review, a home, compare, tips, news, say, phone finder. What's that about? What's it doing that? Why is it doing this? It's not meant to do that. I wasn't ID. Home news, all fine. You meant to go to the brand of the phone, like say, okay. Which one's the most popular one? Amazon? What's that? No, that's not it. I don't do that. Apple. We're looking for. Alright. I made. We're looking. Sony. This one, the new one. Okay. I'm not good at these things, but I can only do what I can. Got to do. I'm laughing, moving my hand around. Every time I talk, it's like, Mamma Mia. I have to put my thumb into my 3 fingers and go, Mamma Mia, and then kiss my, it's like I'm going to kiss my lips, eh? But anyway, this one is Sony Xperia Pro 1. It's got that. I don't know if you can see this, eh? But it's the latest one. And anyway, it's the good one. Android, Dragon 888, 5G. It's got the slot. What is the price for this phone? Okay, it looks like it's close to, I live in Australia. Okay, the price, I think the price was 1,800. Let's just say $2,000. Let's just say $2,000. It's all right to say $2,000. It's all right. No, calm down. It's not $2,000, but it's 1,800 or something. But anyway, it's all right. It's got everything you wanted, right? It's got 450 battery, 4,000 battery. It's got that. 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 Got that. Got that. It's got that. It's got that. It's got that. All right. Okay. It's got everything on it that you want. It's got 12 gig of RAM. It's gonna go fast. 450, which will last you 26 hours. It's all right. And then it'll run out of power. But if you use it very fast and gaming and everything, it might not last you 20 hours anyway. But it's good phone for the photos and everything. But I see what the problem is going to be. I know what the problem is going to be. It's going to cost 1,800, right? In Australia, right? So not many people can afford 1,800. They have to save, and then you can get the phone. So it might take a little while, say 6 to 7 months, and you can get the phone. It's a good phone. This is the one, Sony Xperia Pro 1. I think that's the one. Now we go back. There was one that I liked. I think it was this one as well. 8 gigabytes, 150. It's got everything. If one of these does very nicely as well. It's here. Oh, it's got the Dragon G5. Yep, it's got everything as well. Memory card as well. Camera. Look. All this for the camera. See what this is also helps for the camera and everything. So this could be a phone you could buy, but as well, we don't know the price. Where do we get to the price or something? Here in price is in Europe, I think. $953, close to $1,000 for this one. So if I save $1,000, I could get this phone. Anyway, this is the name of this. It's called gsmarena.com. gsmarena.com. Okay, we go back. That's a Sony Xperia 5XX. Okay, we like that one. Now, what's that? Let me just DLC. Vodafone. Xiaomi. I hear that one's alright too. Okay, Xiaomi Pro. There was something wrong about Xiaomi Pro, which is that 6 or 8 gigabyte RAM. 5. There was something wrong about it. I can't remember what it was. There was a complaint. Someone made a complaint, and they said yes about something. Can't remember. Something to do that the phone said it was gonna be OS or something inside was meant to be like Apple. It's gonna be like everybody else, but it didn't have that. We'll soon find out. Let's read that. Price $260 in Europe. That's cheap. $260. Buy Pico X3 Pro. Will there be a Snapdragon? When can we expect delivery in India? Oh well, right. I see they leave all the comments, right? So if I go like this and say I want this one, right? For big 8 to 16 RAM, 150 battery. October. Oh wow. Good. Hope I'm doing it right this time. €660. Well, does that mean that in Australia it would be like $900 only? I keep forgetting the comment. Cool design, but that punch hole ruin everything. Great phone. Whoa, look at the professional. What a lovely opinion of yours. And that was Xiaomi Black Sharp S Pro. Must be a gaming phone. Okay. We've gone to the top. Now we go back. Apple. This one. Okay, 6.7. I'm not good at 6 gram. 43. That's a bit silly. Why don't you just make it 45, mate? Come on. Anyway, they didn't do that. Oh, this one is only 1,000. But that's American dollars. I get confused how to try to make it. Anyway, like that. 5G. This is the Apple phone. Platform. No slot card. But you can have 1 terabyte, 6G RAM. Oh, wow. Oh, see, price $1,099, $1,049, $1,039, $1,039, $1,390. You kidding me? No. Oh, look, they leave comments. I never knew that. So, GS Marina, you could get a phone and they'll just leave a comment to it, eh? We're going back. We done the Apple. Asus. We don't go the top one. We go something like, this one. 8 gig of RAM, 500 battery. It's got a little flip. But this one's an old one. Man, get to the program. This is 2020, Hector. Crazy ago. Yeah, I know. 2020? A year ago. Why? This is 2020. Wow, the price might have dropped to 690. Wow. This one's a good one, man. I love this one. Asus Zenfone 7 Pro. Okay, that's a good one. I like it. So then you gotta go to I didn't read the comments before. Look, $1,698 Hector, my friend. Oh, look, they somehow says 2020, but it was released on 2020. What the hell? Why? I don't know. What did I don't know. Anyway. It's got the Snapdragon 88. No slot card. That's what it pisses me off. Because if it's got no slot card, right? Okay. Pretend you want to hide something from your something and you want to put it over there, will be extra memory for you to put a movie or anyway, maybe you don't need to anyway. 1,698. And what are the comments? Not much of gamer, but some recent I1 this phone too expensive for me, but it's still cool phone. I never had something like this before. Anyway, this is Asus ROG. But it's saying that what will that mean, that status available release 2020, then it's 21? What the heck? Did I lie or something? Anyway, we're going out. Apple, Asus. Google 6 Pro 12 gigabyte. Yeah, this is good. It's got a this is good fine. Android 12. Oh yes. Oh, you look, the camera is good. Look, they are OIS. It's got good camera. But the price, let's see the price. 899, 1,000. Okay, it's gonna cost me 1,500, is it? No. Look, here it says 800. All these prices. Okay. Oh, they leave no comment. I don't like Pixel. Read it all. What's this? What do you mean, John? If they should have included a free headphone jack, this phone would be perfect. Didn't they include a headphone jack? Wait a minute, didn't they include headphone jack? Okay, I don't know how to go back to it. Didn't they do that? No headphone jack? Where did you say that? Sound, loudspeaker. How they didn't, so on the bottom you can't plug in a, you have to get something to convert into so you can put your headphones. Why, you want always wireless? Okay, say I've got a normal headphone and you've got to plug it in at the bottom. You won't be able to. Why? Anyway, this is called, it says, now yes, to me, m.gsmarena.com. Okay, go out of there. The next one, the birch. On a 50 review, lost a Hawaii gang Google. Okay, we're just gonna read box back offer Apple tracking police report cost social media platform nearly 10 billion. Gaming. Oh, this is also got, it's also got comments to it, which makes me feel good. Roblox was down all weekend and not because of cheap people. Roblox was down, was it? I only read a couple. I ain't got all day. So, what's this? It's got the comments to it. Wow, this one's a big comment. I didn't read that. You can come and read the comments here. So, Roblox, okay. We want tech news. That's where we at, okay. Okay. Listen to the boys orchestra cover the Ghostbusters theme using electric toothbrush and a steamer. Okay. I'm just going up quick as possible. I've got someone ringing me, so I'm not fucking around. I'm sorry. Oh look, you can go watch it. Just gonna leave this here. Wow, you can go watch it. Good. Okay. No, didn't like any of them. Berg G Cast, Facebook goes meta and review of Pixel 6. Okay, I like to say, stop making Facebook the best in the West, in the best. How many followers do you wanna, and how are we not hacked, and what's hacked? What's going down, man? It's ridiculous. Whoa. Anyone else getting search error when trying to listen to Overcast? It's literally only this episode that won't download or play. Okay, whatever, but I don't understand that, eh? What's this? Well, Mastodon puts Trump's social network on notice for improperly using its code. Tries to use Mastodon code has not. Okay. You gotta read this. You gotta stop at any time. You gotta do what I can on the name of God. If I make a mistake or something, be nice. Be nice. I love you. Stop any time, please. Oh. Stop any time, please. I love you. God. I see a lot of people that really think that Trump used to be the president of America, but now it's Joe Biden. Trump has to go to court. You understand? You know, like Mastodon puts Trump's social network on notice for improperly using its code. Okay, it's really bad, eh? One more, and then I'm out of here. This take an hour. Oops, sorry. I'm not good at these things, really. I'm just doing as I can do what I got to do from nothing. Google Reader is still defunct, but now you can follow RSS feed Chrome on Android. Okay. Stop at any time, please. 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 I just like to say, they make all these ideas like new phones and all this technology. How can we all keep up with all this stuff? My brain is not as good as everybody. I love you. I love you. It's incredible, man. Fuck off. Excuse me, please. Stop any time, please. Stop any time. These are the comments, hey. Anyway, and another thing, if Google needs to be extra or something special, when do they get Google to go to court and say, well, these are the new things, these are the special, this coming up, whatever, or do they just do it whatever they want, Google, so Google can just do whatever? My brain can't feather that. I can't understand that. I don't know, motherfucker. God. Stop any time, please. So the same. Okay, the birch. Gotta come to the birch. Is it? Nothing that we need to know about. The new trailer that Wheel of Time, The Witcher, Linkier, House of Goosey, and more. Wow. Rosamund Pike star in The Wheel of Time. Okay. Okay. I'm out of here. I'm out of this one. Okay, and then we got ABC News. This is ABC News Australia. 5 million people have officially died from 5 million. 5 million people has officially died from COVID-19, but who is not being counted? Oh, well, so 5 million, okay, so you've killed 5 million. Is that a good thing? Isn't that genocide? How do we predict genocide? What is genocide? Genocide. Let's just find out. Okay, I'm doing something that I wasn't meant to do, right? No. Míralo. No. Side. Meaning. Genocide, the deliberate killing of large number of people from particular national ethnic group with the aim of destroying the national or group, campaign of genocide. Genocides include many scholar and international legal definition of genocide. A word of, okay, you're really going to say, doesn't genocide mean that you're taking over that country and then you've killed that so many humans and you did genocide to it? You went there to look for something and on the way there you killed and genocide. If history is repeated, if history is done, why doesn't the aliens and UFO and God and everybody else combine together with us humans? Why? Or you think it's stupid that we have Google, YouTube, Facebook, internet, international computer network, people having sex, you fucking around, extraterrestrial, everyone listening. What the fuck? You've gone too far now. You're killing the humans. You can't even get rid of coronavirus. You can't even be nice to others. People who need to go to sport, People need to go swimming. People need to have fun, enjoying. Some people might want to smoke some marijuana. There's nothing wrong with anything. You people make it hard to live. You want to make it so our brain are twisted. What the fuck? We can't have twisted brain. We're not all intelligent. We're not all international computer network. We're not. Read that. Stop at any time. Read that. This is genocide. Stop at any time. He's listing of genocide or something. You know, Nazi killing. You've got the whole history right here. The whole it's written down for you to understand. This is what they've done. This is what they did. Genocide, like conquistadors, Spanish killed the natives. Isn't that incredible? Now we can't speak those languages. We've lost so many languages. You know what I mean? In India, they might be praying to rats and cats and whatever India's doing. Pakistan might be doing something else. So who fuck you, fuck you, quick fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Can't be doing that, man. Can't be doing that. Can't be doing that. That's incredible. So let's just say something. Let's go over here. Now. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of war criminals. War criminals. Okay, it's just the same, man. You know, war crime. There, war crime. It's on this fucking Wikipedia. It's telling you the truth. Well, the whole world don't want to take it to the truth, right? They don't want to. Even extraterrestrials, any god, they're going to say, shut you. They're going to shut me down. Wow, the fuck did you get that in your mind? Look, read that. Stop at any time. 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 Read that. Read that. Stop at any time. 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 Okay, they've got all this history here, right here in Wikipedia, mate. You know, kill the natives, kill the aborigines, one to the other, kill each other, go look for Jesus Christ, create a book called Quran, or some history about some, you know, this, that, and the other, and they all hate one each other. It's really like Google, Facebook, YouTube, all love and all love and all love. I'm gonna cry now. Sorry, I'm sad now. I'm supposed to show you this, man. Look, supposed to show you this. You can come here and read it. ABC Net AU. www.abcnet.au was meant to go there. I haven't got time now. I'm sorry, I went off. And the other one is www.news.com.au, eh? It's really silly. What's this bloody thing, man? You people are horrible. 2 dead after plane crash on the street. You know, what's the blood for? What blood are you looking for? Are you looking for blood? Kill the coronavirus. Let's go live in other planets. Let's get technology higher and faster. Let's make more stuff out of space. Let's do more. Let's create new planets. Are we scared? Are we scared of what? YouTube, you scared? YouTube, you scared? YouTube, you scared? You Google, you scared? Who you scared? You know, believe me. Believe me, I love you. You wanna fuck with me? Fuck with me, motherfucker. Kill to the fucking love you. Love you. Opinions and reply, motherfucker. Okay, now you've called me nanas, mate. I'm going. Ciao. Hasta la vista, baby. Opinion. Love you. Food economic. Money. Sorry. That's okay. It's okay. Hello, la 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 love you. I love you, love you. I'll put on the bobcast. Here's some news for you, my friend. Yoo-hoo. Motherfucker, I love you. We love China. We love China.
His health minister and the secretary of the Department of Health have overseen the most expensive public policy mistakes in Australian history. But to hear Scott Morrison speak is to hear a man seeking praise for his performance. As Anthony Albanese has said often, Morrison failed in his two critical jobs, quarantine and vaccines. While the final tally cannot yet be known, the cost of these failures already runs to the tens of billions of dollars, with many lives lost and many more almost certain to follow. Let's start with quarantine. From the moment, early on the morning of March 19, 2020, that the Ruby Princess unloaded hundreds of COVID-positive passengers onto the streets of Sydney, many of whom rushed straight to the airport, the Morrison government has been denying it had responsibility for biosecurity and quarantine. While the subsequent inquiry into the debacle found that both the New South Wales and federal governments had failed in their obligations, it was telling that Morrison's first reaction was to shift both responsibility and blame onto the states. Morrison seems to believe that the less he commits to, the less he can be held responsible for. This in part might explain his refusal to build dedicated quarantine facilities rather than rely on poorly ventilated hotels as Australia's first line of defence. He said repeatedly that hotel quarantine system was 99.99% effective and that nothing was perfect, but again, neither claim was correct. Between April 20 and June 21, there were 21 breaches of hotel quarantine, which means our system was only 99.5% effective. No doubt Morrison would claim those numbers are quite similar, but think of it this way. If a system was 99.99% effective, then 1 in every 10,000 people entering the country would breach quarantine. But if it was 99.5%, it would be 50 people in every 10,000 arrivals. That's a big difference in an environment of exponential viral spread when whole cities are being shut down for a single breach of quarantine. And if a commercial airline was only 99.99% safe, there'd be 3,900 air disasters each year, and many more deaths as a result. But the most important statistic is also the simplest to interpret. There were 0 breakouts of COVID-19 from Howard Springs in the Northern Territory, repurposed by the federal government as the nation's only COVID quarantine facility. None. If only there'd been more such facilities. Australians do expect some systems to be 100% effective, and they're right to demand their representatives pursue such high standards. Dedicated quarantine facilities near the nation's major airports would have saved Australia from most recent lockdowns in Sydney, Melbourne and Canberra. Yet from the moment COVID first hit our shores, the Prime Minister has refused to spend a few $100 million, less than the cost of his government's car park rorts program, to build any. In contrast, Morrison recently announced his willingness to spend whatever it takes to purchase 8 new nuclear-powered submarines. When the Prime Minister announced the government's vaccine rollout plan in January, he made clear it would not just be fast, but targeted, getting earliest to people at the highest risk of catching the virus and passing it on. Quote, "There will be 5 phases of priority populations as we work through over the course of this year to administer the vaccine, both the Pfizer vaccine and the AstraZeneca vaccine. Today we are going to talk about the process of those first 2 phases that will provide the most necessary ring of containment and protection for the Australian population. Those populations in the first phase are quarantine and border workers, frontline health officials, as well as those working in aged care and disability care and those in aged care and disability care residents." End quote. By June 15, 19 million vaccination doses should have been in the arms of Australians, especially the most vulnerable, according to the timetable Morrison set. None of that happened. Instead, on that June day, a privately contracted limousine driver who was transporting international flight crews tested positive for New South Wales' first known case of the Delta variant of COVID-19. The driver was unvaccinated and not required to wear a mask. Had the federal government taken responsibility for building dedicated quarantine centres, of course, there would be no need for private limo drivers to shuttle those with the greatest risk of bringing COVID into Australia back and forth between privately operated hotels. But if Morrison built such facilities and there were a breach, it would be on his shoulders. So why would he take a risk when it could be pushed onto others? On vaccination, the Morrison government had 12 months to plan who would receive doses first. It had 12 months to communicate with the public about the benefits and the risks of vaccination, including those from non-English speaking backgrounds. It had time to get ahead of the inevitable tide of anti-vax information. It had time to vaccinate those most at risk of spreading infection. It even had time to consult with businesses and unions to draft new laws or clarify the operation of existing ones, to provide employers and employees with clear guidance on when compulsory vaccination might be permitted and required and when it would not. But instead of doing the hard work of developing and implementing good policy, the Prime Minister took easy shots at state leaders. One of the federal government's biggest mistakes was also one of the easiest to avoid. In declining Pfizer's offer in June 2020 to be at the head of the queue for its vaccine, the government made a huge bet on AstraZeneca. But having done so, Morrison lost the courage of his own convictions when, in April 21, he held a panicked evening press conference to warn people about new advice from the Australian Technical Advisory Group on Immunisation on the side effect risks of AstraZeneca. While he blamed ATAGI, yet again the fault lay with him rather than with his scapegoat. Morrison has repeatedly claimed that ATAGI's advice did not consider the risk of further outbreaks when it recommended that Pfizer be preferred for the young. But, as is so often the case, the written record contradicts the Prime Minister. In cautioning people against AstraZeneca, Morrison exacerbated vaccine hesitancy, and that allowed him to focus attention on the lack of demand for vaccines rather than his failure to secure sufficient supply. By mid-June, the vaccine rollout was an astonishing 13 million doses behind Morrison's self-imposed schedule, with fewer than 1 million fully vaccinated people. As a result, key workers from drivers shuttling air crews to those driving ambulances and trucks, through to aged and disability sector workers, as well as disabled people themselves, were all at significantly greater risk of dying. Likewise, the entire economy was more prone to requiring lockdowns imposed by state governments as a result. The cost in lives and dollars of Morrison's stroll out are simply staggering, and to date the Prime Minister seems to have avoided even being asked how responsible he feels for that state of affairs. Of course, not everyone was missing out on vaccinations. A source close to a Qantas staff member told me in May this year the airline was rolling out its own privately funded and privately organised Pfizer vaccination program for all of its staff and everyone they lived with of adult age. In Sydney, Qantas commandeered a corner of the Cavernous International Terminal and turned it into a bustling vaccination hub that for months distributed the seemingly scarce Pfizer to staff and housemates alike. How did Chief Executive Alan Joyce secure what the Prime Minister struggled to find? Why weren't higher risk groups in the community vaccinated before the families of Qantas office staff? And how did the fact that more than 20,000 people jumped the queue not break into the national news? Perhaps we'll never know. But imagine if limo drivers and interstate truck drivers had been vaccinated ahead of accountants and marketing executives at an airline that was barely flying. Qantas weren't alone in getting ahead. It cost more than $50,000 per year to send a kid to St Joseph's College in Sydney's affluent North Shore, and parents who spend that kind of money expect their offspring to get more than a few head starts in life. They weren't disappointed this year when the New South Wales Health Department agreed to provide 163 boarders from Joey's, as the old boys call it, with Pfizer, despite the fact it was not available for most under 40s at the time. Thanks to documents obtained under Freedom of Information laws, we know that an unnamed New South Wales Health Department official secured Pfizer doses for all of the school's boarders that were locked down, with sport fields and a swimming pool to offer respite. After the scandal came to light, the health...
Okay, it sounds ridiculous that we have to be like this, all right? But we are not like that, because we never will be like that, and you know that, so go get fucked.
This is an ABC podcast.
I mean, there's going to continue to be. We've got regions, so
Okay, we're going to have to talk about something, and we are not going to talk about it. So whatever, Pakistan, is it? Is it Pakistan, is it? India, no, China. You have us creating things for you, right, China? We're doing it for you, China. We're doing it for YouTube. When YouTube hears this, YouTube will say, it's for YouTube. I love you, YouTube. Super YouTube. YouTube can be for anybody. You understand? You're addicted to YouTube. Fuck YouTube.
I agree with you. Every time I hear the technology, of course technology is going to be a huge part of the answer.
It's
but to think that we can't, we can get there without doing anything about our emissions output is, and focusing on that, I think is just
Well, they think they are
wrong.
doing something. They're just clearly not doing enough based on what the
Well,
science
how
is
do
saying.
you incentivise this technology, right? And look, the government's absolutely right that some of it is under development now, like hydrogen. Some of it's yet to be dreamt up. No doubt that will come in the decades to come. But how do you incentivise that? The way they're doing it is with some taxpayers' money. Although it is pretty fuzzy on exactly how much will be needed here, but certainly no push, no regulation, no mechanism, no price, nothing that's going to require...
Every possible single you could have, they are not sending.
But can I just say, I think it's worth noting, Matthias Cormann, right? Oh, God. Matthias Cormann, right? Remember him? He was the finance minister. He's got a pretty important job now, David.
He's the OECD Secretary-General, and it is a very different tone that we're heering from Matthias Cormann. Now,
Doesn't mind taxes now.
Your interview with him, Fran.
I couldn't believe it.
Well, he argues that he's consistent because he's always believed that a globally consistent carbon price could be the most efficient way of tackling the problem. And look, by the way, he's right about that. If everyone could hold hands and agree to this, it would be the most efficient way to do it. But here's the point, was abandoning the carbon price we had in Australia. Don't forget, the Gillard one was meant to then link up with the European carbon price and be a building block.
That was the plan.
Was getting rid of that, was scrapping the tax. To remind you of the three-word slogan, really helping in that cause of a global carbon price?
He called it a hoax when he was the finance minister.
It's funny how whatever job you might have at the time means that your views suddenly shift. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's been fascinating too to watch Morrison and other government ministers distance themselves from Cormann now. He's not there representing Australia. No. He's talking on behalf of the OECD.
And they got him the job.
Yeah, that's right. No, shameless, I think, is the word that comes to mind. David, we were just talking earlier about the fact that this climate conference, this trip overseas, has really been dominated for Scott Morrison, not by pressure about lack of ambition on emissions, but by the subs deal. And straight off the block, almost before, I think it was before he'd landed, the US President, Joe Biden, really sort of got in there first and kicked this up. He did in that press conference with the French president, said the whole retracting of the subs deal had been handled, and the announcement of AUKUS had been handled clumsily. He said it was clumsy. He said what we did was clumsy, not done with a lot of grace, and I didn't realise you'd been given not much notice. I, honest to God, didn't know that.
Yeah.
And the question there was, well, who was he accusing for that?
Australia. He was throwing Morrison under the bus, and this derailed the whole trip for Scott Morrison, right, before he even landed. Don't forget, Morrison finally took a call from Macron just before leaving, right? The day before leaving, finally, 6 weeks after upsetting the French so badly, he gets a call from Macron. Now, we don't know what was said on the call, but we know Morrison's version of it was, look, it was positive, we're on the way back to something more normal. This was breaking the ice, starting to thaw things.
I think we know that the French version of that call was very different.
The French version was very different, right? And because then we can come to the actual exchange that they had and what followed. But when Biden made those comments in an effort to repair his own relationship with France, at the expense of obviously putting Morrison right in it, that then lit a match, right, on this whole issue. And then the Australian journalists, I think led by the ABC's Andrew Probyn, spied Macron finishing his own remarks with the French media, approached him, started asking questions, and then bang, you get that the clear view of the French president as to where things lie, and that is that he believes Scott Morrison lied to him.
Yeah, and we've heard that earlier, and then that was turbocharged by a former Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, who was at the Glasgow conference. Let's just have a listen to this.
Tell you what Scott Morrison has done. He has sacrificed Australian honour, Australian security and Australian sovereignty. Now, that is a shocking thing for an Australian Prime Minister to do. Oh, he's lied to me on many occasions. Scott has always had a reputation for telling lies.
So, not once, twice, but thrice, I think, he went on to basically talk about Scott Morrison's reputation for telling lies.
And not just that, I mean, you heard his comments there. He sacrificed Australian honour, security and sovereignty. That is about as serious and as damning as it gets about a Prime Minister. Look, Malcolm Turnbull has been on this progression of criticism when it comes to Scott Morrison, and I think it's really hit...
It's hit 11.
It's hit 11. It's hit 15. I mean, that was so over the top that I just wonder, how much this is actually going to hurt Morrison. I mean, sure, Labor will
or how much it might hurt Malcolm Turnbull. I mean,
that's what I mean. I think he's really crossed that line now into territory where often less is more. I think when it comes to criticism from a former Prime Minister, but the repetitive nature of the Turnbull criticism and the extremity of it now, you just wonder whether it's really going to have as much damage.
I think that's a good point. But what he's trying to do, right, it's quite deliberate, is paint a picture of Scott Morrison for being routinely a liar. This is the same picture that Labor's been trying to paint. That he's tricky with the truth. Think all the way back to Hawaii, and kind of smoke and mirrors about where he was at that time. And I think it's a relevant example that Labor
and this
has
is a problem for Morrison. This is a problem for Morrison. Don't get me wrong. And I think this is where the collective words of Turnbull, but particularly Macron, and I think Macron's language. You're hearing this from a major world leader. Yes, this is going to damage and Morrison, and it feeds into this. Whether it's the bushfires, you can think of all sorts of small examples. But even his language this week, which has been changing, right? So he gets called a liar by Macron, and what does he do? He does a couple of things. He leaks the text message, right? We can talk about that, but he also shifts his position dramatically on the French submarines. Now, don't forget, when he cancelled the deal back in September, this is only, 6 weeks ago, he denied this had anything to do with cost blowouts or time delays in the delivery of the subs. He says, no, it's not based in fact. He said, in fact, I'll pull out the quote here because he said at the time he was aware of those criticisms. He didn't believe they were founded in fact. In no way does this reflect, he said, in any shape or form on the attack class submarine, the Naval Group and the commitment of the French government and indeed President Macron. After being called a liar, however, very different. He goes after the French submarines. He's saying there were a lot of issues in relation to delays in the project and, of course, the costs. That's not what he originally said. It's not what the Defence Secretary, Greg Moriarty, said only a week ago.
Exactly. I mean, in Senate estimates, they were very clear. And I actually made a mistake this week on air because I had read plenty of analysis saying that the French contract was a dud. There were time delays, I think that's fair to say, in reaching some of the targets. But in costs...
And in fairness, there may well have been. This was widely reported. There was an audit review into the program. There were problems there.
Yes, but the department at Senate estimates said the costs were coming in as we had agreed.
He said, Greg Moriarty said there was no cost blowout. He said the contract was terminated. This is just last week. The contract was terminated because our requirements have changed, not because of a poor performance by the Naval Group or Lockheed Martin Australia.
And this is the issue, right? back to being slippery with the truth. We do have a memory. Look at you. You can find the quotes. Yeah. What is correct? You cannot argue that both are correct. But you just said, let's go back to, so we're going leaking of the text message.
Yes,
I want to talk about the leaking of the text message because I spoke to Barnaby Joyce. The Prime Minister has not denied, for instance, that his office leaked the text. I spoke to Barnaby Joyce. He really, he put it up to 11 and said, what else are you going to do? You've been called a liar. You need to basically provide the evidence. Now, Labor says if you look at the actual text, it does not prove the point that Scott Morrison wanted to make by leaking it. But let's go to whether it's appropriate to leak the text.
Look, I don't think so. Look, I think Macron was extraordinary and undiplomatic to accuse Scott Morrison of being...
Okay, Scott Morrison has lied, but it doesn't matter if he lied or not lied, okay? It's enough now because they're in another country, we're in this country, we decide not to have this, we decide not to have that. You can't stop world peace, you can't stop genocide, you can't stop bombing, you can't stop United States going to Syria, Iran, Iraq, whatever. We can't do shit. So it's a lie, all a lie, right? But are you going to take this to the high and stuff it up to Morris? No, you're not. You're not going to stuff up Scott Morris, the Prime Minister of Australia. The Prime Minister of Australia, has got a lot on his plate to fix Fiji, Papua New Guinea, help the neighbours, New Zealand, try everything for China, whatever it is, to kill this pirate. Scott Morris is over the top now, mate. You can't kill him, and I don't see why we have to do this now or later, okay? Because you haven't taken genocide to the High Court, right? You kill natives, you take over countries, you do this, you do that. Unfair for us to die, humans. Unfair for any humans to die. Any human dead, you kill humans, it's genocide, right? So what the fuck is wrong with you? YouTube, I'm angry. And if you don't get it, you won't get it now, motherfucker. I am going off.
Making houses out of straw is far from new.
You might be surprised to learn that this goes all the way back to 1933, to its invention in Sweden, where it was known as stramet, or strawboard. And it became popular after World War II because of the shortage of conventional building materials. But it wasn't until 1954 that it really took off here in Australia.
And this extraordinary heritage-listed house on a very steep bank of Melbourne's Yarra River dates from that same year. Its internal walls are lined with stramet board, an earlier non-structural version of the modern-day straw panels. Its owner and designer is acclaimed Australian architect, 94-year-old Peter McIntyre.
We used it because it was good insulation and it was a very quick way of, an economical way of infilling the steel frame.
The house, known as the Butterfly House because of its symmetry, is proof of the durability of compressed straw panels.
I mean, you can see in a house like this, because the stramet board, which wasn't nearly up to the quality of the product of the Durra board, I mean, here it is, 70 years later, and it's still working, yeah.
The Durra panel is still there, and in the walls and the ceilings, as good as the day it was put in.
Derek Layfield's own house in a bushfire-prone zone in South Gippsland is also made of compressed straw panels. Built on a challenging steep slope, it's encased by steel girders and iron cladding. Derek aims to get more panels into the mainstream housing market.
Like a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom house, and made entirely of the panels. And we designed that building, and his idea was that not only to sell it locally, but to try to expand the market into Asia. And so far, it's been very successful.
The design is modular, so it can be easily reconfigured.
Its time's come because we want to use recycled materials, we want to use sustainable construction.
Okay, they're going to make a house that might resist fire and all this, with different panels from a different country where they bought the piece of wood and metal all around it. They're going to make a house for the future, all this stuff. We need this because Australia gets bushfires, floods, and all different weather. It's disgusting how we are living now. We don't need that. We don't need that. Okay? We don't need any of that. Right? So it's incredible what's going on, mate. It's incredible. I'm really disappointed anyway, but still, you know, it's not a good thing, and we're not gonna whatever, but we're not really gonna do anything, you know. Anyway, we're not really gonna do anything, and we're fighting for our own existence. You know what I mean? Like how we're gonna live and how we're gonna do things. We're gonna help one another. We're gonna be beautiful. We're gonna be a champion. Mwah! I love you. We're gonna mwah! And more. We're gonna kick your ass, and we're gonna fuck it. And we're going to do it the right way. And people are going to cry for you. People are going to say things that you never said before. We're going to do things for the bushfires. We can't kill the koala. We can't kill the animals. We can't kill the dolphins. We have to not bleach the coral reef. You understand? Up in Brisbane, we have to, these things can't be happening. You understand? And if this is not happening, no, it's silly. No. You understand? None of this should be happening to us, to them, to whom, to whatever. It's not right. You know what I mean? We need to be together. And
let's say you have 50K in cash, and you use that to buy a $500,000 property.
Okay, stop it. I'm getting really tired of this shit, hey.
Australia is preparing to take the next steps towards living with COVID as a major vaccine milestone is achieved. We've passed 80% double-dose vaccination nationwide, and the Prime Minister has taken to social media to show his thanks.
Another magnificent milestone, Australia.
A Prime Minister's pat on the back for the 36 million jabs in Australian arms. The nation officially passing the 80% double-dosed vaccination target for the population aged over 16.
How good is that?
Marking a key step towards living with the virus that's dominated the world for the past 2 years.
I know it has felt like a long journey. That's because it has been.
New modelling has given a glimpse into how life with COVID could be about to change. The Doherty Institute is recommending scaling back contact tracing, removing the requirement for casual contacts to be tested or quarantined, and reducing the time in isolation for vaccinated positive cases from 14 days down to 7.
We can tolerate virus in the community, so it means we don't have to go as hard with every outbreak investigation.
But some states have made it clear they won't move until their own 80% target is met.
It is too much of a risk to do that before we have at least 80% of the population fully vaccinated.
The Doherty Institute's report also suggests twice weekly rapid antigen tests for school students to prevent outbreaks in the classroom.
The ideal is that you haven't interrupted their education either and they can stay in class.
States that are currently COVID-free will need to decide whether to take on this advice when the virus arrives after their border walls are torn down.
We all need to take this path back to normal life together.
But airport reunions...
Some people have been bullied, some people are just stressed out, some people...
Okay, this is gone now too far. We ain't gonna get no bar. I wanna do bar. And wait, wah, yeah. I'm going na, pa, yo, yeah, boo, booty, pa, la.
I'm going to talk to you about some things I've learned in my journey. Most from experience, some of them I heard in passing, many of them I'm still practicing, but all of them I do believe are true. Life is not easy. It is not. Don't try to make it that way. Life's not fair. It never was. It isn't now, and it won't ever be. Do not fall into the trap, the entitlement trap. of feeling like you're a victim. You are not. Get over it and get on with it. So the question that we got to ask ourselves is what success is to us, what success is to you. Is it more money? That's fine. I got nothing against money. Maybe it's a healthy family. Maybe it's a happy marriage. Maybe it's to help others, to be famous, to be spiritually sound, to leave the world a little bit better place than you found it. Continue to ask yourself that question. Now, your answer may change over time, and that's fine. But do yourself this favor. Whatever your answer is, don't choose anything that will jeopardize your soul. Prioritize who you are, who you want to be, and don't spend time with anything that antagonizes your character. Be brave, take the hill, but first answer that question, what's my hill? So first, we have to define success for ourselves. And then, we have to put in the work to maintain it. Make that daily tally. Tend our garden. Keep the things that are important to us in good shape. Where you are not is as important as where you are. It is just as important where we are not as it is where we are. Look, the first step that leads to our identity in life is usually not, I know who I am. I know who I am. That's not the first step. The first step's usually, I know who I am not. Process of elimination. Defining ourselves by what we are not is the first step that leads us to really knowing who we are. You know that group of friends that you hang out with that really might not bring out the best in you? You know, they gossip too much or they're kind of shady. They really aren't going to be there for you in a pinch. Or how about that bar that we keep going to that we always seem to have the worst hangover from? Or that computer screen, right? The computer screen that keeps giving us an excuse not to get out of the house and engage with the world and get some real human interaction. Or how about that food that we keep eating? Stuff that tastes so good going down, it makes us feel like crap the next week. We feel lethargic and we keep putting on weight. Well, those people, those places, those things, stop giving them your time and energy. Just don't go there. I mean, put them down. And when you do this, when you do put them down, when you quit going there, when you quit giving them your time, you inadvertently find yourself spending more time and in more places that are healthy for you, that bring you more joy. Why? Because you just eliminated the who's, the where's, the what's, and the when's that were keeping you from your identity. Like, trust me, too many options. I promise you, too many options will make a tyrant of us all. All right, so get rid of the excess, the wasted time. Decrease your options. If you do this, you will have accidentally, almost innocently, put in front of you what is important to you by process of elimination. Knowing who we are is hard. It's hard. Give yourself a break. Eliminate who you are not first. You're going to find yourself where you need to be. Instead of creating outcomes that take from us, let's create more outcomes that pay us back, fill us up, keep your fire lit, turn you on for the most amount of time in your future. We try our best, we don't always do our best. Now, architecture is a verb as well. Since we are the architects of our own lives, let's study the habits, the practices, the routines that we have that lead to and feed our success. Our joy, our honest pain, our laughter, our earned tears. Let's dissect that and give thanks for those things. And when we do that, guess what happens? We get better at them. And we have more to dissect. Be discerning. Choose it because you want it. Do it because you want to. We're going to make mistakes. You got to own them. Then you got to make amends. And then you got to move on. Guilt and regret kills many a man before their time. So turn the page, get off the ride. You are the author of the book of your life.
Okay, I think it's finished now. Upala, 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 upala. Okay, love, opinion, love you, 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 love you. I love you. Opinion, food, economics, family, love you, love you, love you, love you. Reply, remember me in the future. For you, for me, YouTube, Facebook. I live in Illawarra, New South Wales, Australia.
So we can't go any further.
Have a rest for 4 minutes. Have a little rest. Relax for a minute and we can go back. We're recording you. Pew. Pew, pew, pew. I'm going under the shade, it's too hot. Pew. Pew.
Did you see Chile still laughing about being World Cup? So we can't go any further.
Have a rest for 4 minutes. Have a little rest. Relax for a minute and we can go back. We're recording you. Pew. Pew, pew, pew. I'm going under the shade, it's too hot. Pew. Pew.
Did you see Chile still laughing about being World Cup?
Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's okay. Hello, can I have some of this?
What size?
Oh, you're one of them. I don't know. Can you put it on bread or something?
No.
Okay, small one.
Any drinks for you?
No, thanks. Do you have salt and pepper?
Yeah.
I'll have salt and pepper.